You know the name of Frieza's dad, right?
Frieza!
No.
King Cooler, idiot.
No, it's Captain Cold, double idiot.
Fuck!
So early November, Red Dead Redemption 2 came out on PC, I think, for the Rockstar launcher and the Epic Games launcher. And then a month later, so now, it came out on Steam. I don't know why they did this, because if it was an Epic Games exclusive, it would just be on Epic Games. I got it on Rockstar because it gave you a free upgrade from whichever one you were initially purchasing, which I found pretty cool. So I was just taking a quick look at the Steam page for the game. I don't wanted to check it out on Steam, see if there's any noticeable differences, because they were released a month apart. So I'm curious to see if there was any, noticeable differences in the game. All reviews are mixed, so it might still be the port issues, or there might be some differences between the Steam version and the other versions. So let's just take a quick look at it. So on the main menu, it does seem they did make a few changes. Instead of launching on the two-panel thing where you can switch between the story and the online, it doesn't seem to give you an option to select online yet. Maybe you have to get a certain way through the story to unlock the multiplayer. And as we can see here, Arthur Morgan on the front and center. So the menus, they seem pretty much the same. So upon first look, instead of starting us in the snow area, it just throws us straight into a combat situation. I believe this is Valentine. Oh wow, they really ramped up the difficulty on this one. I don't see any ammo counter anywhere. I'm guessing that's part of the higher difficulty to make it more immersive. In fact, the only actual HUD I see is the health bar, so I'm guessing that's also a more aesthetically pleasing option. So something I noticed is that the environments are a little less tangible. I can see a few of my bullets going through environments. Another example of this is that environments such as this ladder can't seem to be able to climb them. I've also seen environments such as these just hovering. So yeah, it does seem this Steam port was a little bit rushed. I think they could have spent a little bit more time on it. Health seems to starts to begin regenerating instantly and doesn't seem to be affected by any sort of stamina usage or anything like that. I will be honest, the movements are definitely not as good as PC ports on other platforms. It does seem a little bit ragged, I'll be honest. But it does seem understandable since, these types of games definitely seem to try to be realistic. They tend to favor that over movement, which is understandable. They're trying to make it realistic. Horses don't seem to be interactable with either. That's an interesting choice they chose to do. Other simple movement animations such as vaulting seem to have also been removed. I'm assuming that was to save time and development. It also seems like enemies also take a lot more damage, so if you're definitely looking for a much harder Red Dead Redemption, I would suggest getting it on Steam, since it seems way more difficult in this case. While you're aiming down sights, if you press a button to go in a direction, it doesn't actually commit into going in that direction a full, I'd say about a second into it. A controversial change that I actually quite like is the fact you don't need to press the left click button in order to cock the weapon. It seems to do it just seemingly automatically, which I find quite endurable. I do think people will agree with me when I say it was annoying that a left click would fire the gun and then cock it and then fire. Switching between those was rather challenging. It seems to just respawn you instantly, which I find definitely more appealing. The story does seem a little bit absent here. I haven't had any dialogue with any characters, and this shootout scene does seem to be going on for a long time. I'm guessing just to get people comfortable with the combat in the game, which is fair. There is a lot of combat in Red Dead Redemption 2. It also seems to give you a lot of weapons firsthand. It gives you a revolver, an axe, a shotgun, and a kind of a carbine rifle. So it does seem if you want a more combat focused experience with this game, but with also more challenging combat, I would definitely recommend this port of Red Dead Redemption 2 on Steam. Something I will say I miss about other ports of Red Dead Redemption 2 is that you seemingly have infinite ammo, which I understand is, especially when it comes to the story, ammo doesn't really seem to matter since you always have so much of it and you earn money at such a fast rate that ammunition doesn't seem to matter because you're earning so much that you're just constantly buying it. But I do miss that, the feeling of going to a town to pick up some ammo and other supplies. Rockstar seems to have taken a different approach to the story, and Arthur Morgan seems to have actually transitioned into a woman, which is definitely a rare thing to see in the Old West. But it's good to see that Rockstar is still showing representation in a game that tries to be very realistic. So I'm sure a lot of people in the LGBTQ plus community will appreciate that. However, that does seem to be rather contrasted by the lack of clothing the protagonist seems to wear. This is understandable though, since it does, technically speaking, work into how Red Dead Redemption 2 normally operates, which is that there's this whole clothing system that associates with weather, and it does seem that due to the amount of clothing these men are wearing, it does seem to be slowing them down actually, whereas I'm much faster and have access to dodge roll abilities. So it does seem that the lack of clothing that I have does actually seem to be benefiting me. So it kind of depends on what you're looking for. It seems dodge rolling is actually tied to double pressing a key, which I personally don't think is a very good thing, especially since if you're tense situation in the game, you may just accidentally double click it. So considering all I've seen, while these are just my first impressions of the first couple, I'd say 30 minutes of the game, I will say the story in this port starts off very slowly. I've been playing this game for, I'd say, about 30 minutes, and I feel like I've made no progression, not to mention the fact that the Steam port of the game seems to have just outright removed multiple, not just animations, but entire gameplay elements. So overall, I will say the Steam PC port of Red Dead Redemption 2 was generally quite disappointing. While of course the story starts off pretty slow in the first release PC ports on Epic Games and Rockstar, I do think these changes aren't that good, especially with the removal of animation assets and actual gameplay assets. Multiplayer access is also generally quite unacceptable, and I do hope that they change that in the future. If you were waiting to purchase Red Dead Redemption 2 specifically via Steam, I would just generally recommend just making the switch over to either Epic Games or Rockstar's own launcher.